Hello, my name is Sam,
Hey, I'm Kerri.
and we are the Marriage Guides, and we are going to just be having some conversations here. And today, you had brought up something earlier.
Yeah, I always feel compelled to explain how my mind works, so I'll tell Sam, I was like, here's how I got to this point.
It's been almost 20 years. I still need a lot of explanation on how your mind works.
Yes, well, girls got to have her secrets, right? Anyways, I just was thinking that we watched the Country Music Awards show that just happened on Sunday. It was an entertaining show. It's fun for me. Goes back to my roots, but one of the performers, Florida Georgia Line, sing with BB Rexa, a pretty hit song right now that Meant to Be is the name of it. And today it was just stuck in my head. I'm like, that's bizarre. So as I'm singing it, I'm like, I don't agree with that lyric. And there's sometimes with music especially, it can get down in you and your mind can be chewing on it in the background and an unconscious thought. And all of a sudden it becomes a belief system. But anyways, the lyrics are, talking about a relationship and just casual, laid back. And if it's meant to be, it'll be. So just let it be. And I don't agree with that when it comes to marriage and relationships.
So I think it's interesting because when you talk about like falling in love, I think that is.
Yeah, that is the attitude.
You gotta let yourself, in a sense.
Yeah, well, you're getting to know each other, and you do want to just be yourself. That's right. And if it goes longer than a couple of dates, well, then great, and you keep pounding that out. But when it comes to long-term relationship,
there you go,
and marriage, I do not agree.
Yeah. So I think when we talk about let it be and hoping that things turn out in marriage, that clearly is a conflict because, it's interesting. If you ever walk by a garden, it's not the result, or a beautifully landscaped piece of property, it's not the result of just let it be.
No.
And I think that's the thing. It's one thing to, sort of have a relationship develop that was kind of a surprise, but the reality is if you're going to have a healthy relationship, it's going to require some maintenance.
Yes.
And I think that what I would say is some people absolutely have let it be. In fact, I was thinking about our first house. So the first house we owned in San Diego was in La Mesa, and it actually had a really nice backyard. It's probably the largest backyard we've ever had.
It was terraced and it was landscaped.
Anyway, it was kind of cool. Well, we fired the landscaper and we hired our oversized golden retriever named Buttercup to take care of the backyard. And Buttercup went to work back there.
Oh, yes.
And when it came time for us to sell,
we did not have a beautifully
beautifully landscaped backyard. Chaos had ensued.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of what sometimes happens is you let the the inmates run the asylum, and all of a sudden.
Yes. Well, anything that does not treated with intentionality.
Yeah.
And is just left in its own devices. I believe that this is just a law of our world. It will fall into chaos.
Yeah.
You don't leave a car just sitting and then expect in 20 years to come back and the air to be in the tires, not to have any rust or any other issues in the engine. There's probably even rodents that have nested in the engine, depending on where you left the car seated. So it's parked.
Seated.
Yes. I think you get the point.
Yes.
Anything left to its own devices will fall into chaos.
Okay, so when we're working with couples, I think one of the things that I find very interesting is you have a couple whose marriage is in trouble and you ask, when was the last time you went on a date? And this really happens for parents of young children.
Yes.
And I'm not saying we've done...
We didn't do a whole lot better.
Way much better. Because I think there's a couple things going on. One is dates can be, they don't have to be, but can be expensive.
Yes. And then childcare.
And then you start adding cost to have childcare. Anyway, so I understand that there are obstacles, but what we find is there's some couples who have not been
Yeah, as a part of eliminating obstacles, they've just kind of taken out those intimate conversations that you would typically have on a date.
Right.
Completely out of the relationship.
Right. So to me, I think intentionally spending time together is one of those really big keys to having a garden of a relationship. One that looks like it was maintained, I think, is spending time together. And we actually had the opportunity this last weekend to spend time first as a family, but then we did something we haven't done before.
Right.
As far as like following a vacation, is then take a couple days just by ourselves. And how important that is to just have the time and not be rushed. So I think even an overnight trip is really important if possible. Yeah. But again, sometimes there's a huge fear of letting the kids be with someone else because you're afraid that, bad things are going to happen to them. I think a lot of people really struggle to find a sitter or a nanny or things like that because they're afraid to leave their kids with someone else. But I'm going to tell you a second side is if you never let them be with someone else, your marriage may atrophy while you're attempting to not maintain your relationship. That's actually harmful for your kids as well.
Yes.
So I've always said that I think a great parent, the first tool for parenting is a good marriage.
Have a great marriage.
Because the environment that you have between you, to me, does a lot more than your technique. At least that's what I've been hoping for. my parenting techniques
sometimes
is lacking.
Yes, guilty as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there are things too, and if we're on the subject of spending time, it's how you go about doing that and the creativity.
Yeah.
Like, even for us, we kind of got locked into this, that a date needed to be a nice restaurant. It needed to be all of these different items. And I remember a couple years ago, it was a special date night. I think it was a birthday or whatever. So we'd gone to a nice steakhouse, spent a lot of money on a meal, and then it was real close to the beach, which is one of my favorite things. So we go out to the beach, and while we're there, we run into our neighbors. And our kids are best friends and whatever. So we run into what are you guys doing here? Oh, we're on a date. And I'm like, oh. And they had gone to like Trader Joe's and each bought a salad and taken their $5 salad and sat at the beach. And I'm just like, huh. $10 and an awesome date night, or nice steak dinner and awesome date night. So the point I'm trying to say, do it if it's within your means and that's what you want to do. And there's no regrets here. Right. But the other thing is, I don't know that we have to stay in the constructs of what we think dates are. And when you're just dating and starting out, dates are typically a big deal. Yeah. I mean, you bought tickets to the opera, yeah.
Never gone again.
No. But, there are times to do that. But you can have, if you have a fire pit in the backyard, put the kids to bed, go out there, or let the kids watch a movie for an hour or a 30-minute show, but you take advantage of it. And then what you do during those times matter too. Don't go over schedules and, those kinds of things. Actually maintain friendship, because that's, I think, one of the things that goes fastest.
Yeah. Yeah, that actually is good. I think you need to have time. So if you don't have any time, sometimes all you're trying to do is pump the most important things out.
Yes.
Like finances might be really important.
Mm-hmm.
They are important.
Yeah.
But if then the only times you finally get alone time are talking about your most difficult subjects, that can also be tough. So you want to make sure you're cultivating and just having fun. And then in that, though, I think sometimes it takes a while. Wouldn't you agree? It takes a while for people to transition. I think this is another thing, just emotionally, that we've learned, that I think a guy and me can be ready for physical activity in the relationship very quickly.
Yeah.
Meaning, I remember one time you asked, this is going a little bit off our original topic, but I think it's intentional, is that, I think, does any touch not lead to me being interested in physical intimacy? Well, the answer is probably no. I think any touch could lead to that.
It's honesty.
But the problem is that then it takes more time, like when we were before kids. It's easier. I guess what I'm saying is there's less pressures.
Right.
But when you go from being mom, cooking dinner, there's a lot of other cleaning dishes, laundry, whatever, packing kids, making sure kids are doing homework, things like this. It's much harder to make that transition. So this is again where it's intentional. We've got to intentionally create some time to where you can sync the relationship back up emotionally.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And to go on a slightly different topic too, there from just marriage relationships or intimate relationships, but it's also the same is true. This idea of spending time in with intentionality is true with your friendships. So a few years ago, I was in a crisis and wanted to talk to someone. I think you were asleep, and I didn't know who to call. I couldn't, my parents hours away, time change away, my sister, the same thing. They were already in bed. I didn't have anyone to call, and that was even more depressing to me than whatever I was going through. And so I remember sitting on the toilet and sending an email to a leader, a church leader, and the next morning I got a phone call, and we had coffee, and she said to me, I think you just need a friend. And I was just like, yeah, I really don't have friends in my life. And we had done some research too, Google search, because that's where all research starts, right? And just found an article that on average it takes 3 years to cultivate a close friendship relationship with someone. And it's because you're not spending every single day and every single moment with a friend, but you do have to have those experiences through different seasons of life. And not just annual seasons, but seasons of grief and loss, seasons of happiness and sharing, seasons of financial hardships and financial highs. And I think when you experience that, but you don't give up on a relationship, what you get at the end of that is something that's really close and very personal.
Yeah, you can't forsake the idea of you've got to actually get together.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in busy lives, that takes some sacrifice, like intentionally creating space for you to go meet with friends. And I think that's important too, that a healthy marriage relationship can't be isolated.
Right.
And I see a lot of couples where they're their only friends, right? They don't have a lot of other people they're interacting with. And I think that's really a negative too.
Yeah.
Okay, so Florida Georgia line, we disagree with the idea that could be good for a long-term relationship. I understand you're probably singing about
a dating relationship. I did read all of the lyrics.
Yes, but the idea that's not going to be a good plan.
Yeah.
To have a successful long-term.
No.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. See you guys next time.
Bye.